I was arrested on a Thursday morning and I still don't know exactly what I did. That sounds impossible. I know it does. But I'm telling you the truth. Federal agents showed up at my apartment with a warrant for crimes I'd never committed, charges I'd never heard of, and an arrest record that had my face on it but felt like it belonged to a completely different person. Because it did. My sister Emma had stolen my identity. Not my credit cards, not my social security number. My actual literal identity. She'd taken my name, my face, my entire existence, and she'd used it to escape from a federal prison where she was serving 12 years for drug trafficking. I found this out while handcuffed in the back of a police car, watching my apartment disappear in the side mirror, like it was a life I'd imagined instead of lived. The agent driving, a woman named Detective Morrison, explained it to me while I sat there in shock, my brain unable to process anything except the sound of my own heartbeat, thundering in my ears. Your sister, Emma Chen, was incarcerated at Federal Correctional Institution in West Virginia, she said, her tone clinical, like she was reading the weather report. She was serving a sentence for conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. 3 weeks ago, she was transferred to a minimum security facility in preparation for release. And she walked out. I don't understand, I whispered. She walked out, Morrison continued, using documentation in your name, your driver's license, your birth certificate, your social security number. She'd been corresponding with forgers for months, building an entire second identity using yours. When she was transferred to minimum security, she used your documents to walk out as if she'd been released. I asked the obvious question. How is that possible? Morrison looked at me in the rearview mirror. That's what we're trying to figure out. But in the meantime, every crime your sister committed before and after her escape, we're looking at you. You're the one with the record. You're the one whose fingerprints are in the system. You're the one whose face is on the documents. I spent 30 hours in a federal holding cell before my court-appointed lawyer explained the situation to me fully. His name was Robert Castellano, and he had the tired face of someone who'd spent 20 years watching the legal system eat innocent people alive. He laid it all out. Emma had systematically stolen pieces of my identity over years. She'd opened accounts in my name. She'd accessed medical records using my information. She'd built an entire shadow existence using me as the foundation. Why would she do this? I asked him. He shrugged. Control, access, because she could. She was in prison for conspiracy charges. She had time to plan, and she apparently had connections on the outside willing to help her. Your sister is either very smart or very desperate. Probably both. What he didn't tell me, because he probably didn't know yet, was how deep it went, how personal it was, how much I didn't understand about my own sister until everything fell apart. Emma was 4 years older than me. We'd grown up in chaos. Our mother was an addict, our father was absent, and we raised each other in a 2-bedroom apartment in Newark, taking turns being the parent. Emma had learned early that the only way to survive was to be harder than everyone else. I'd learned to disappear. We were two different responses to the same brutality. When Emma was arrested 8 years ago, I'd been devastated. Not surprised, I'd watched her spiral into the drug world since high school, but devastated. I'd sat in that courtroom listening to the judge explain her sentence, and I'd made a promise to myself that I'd keep her connection to the outside world alive. I'd visit her. I'd write her letters. I'd be the one thing that wasn't rotten in her life, and she'd repaid me by stealing my existence. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It accumulated piece by piece as my lawyer showed me the documents. The forged driver's license, the altered social security card, the birth certificate with her picture and my name. She'd had years to perfect it, and she'd been meticulous. Obsessively meticulous. She wanted to disappear completely, my lawyer explained. Not as Emma Chen, as you. Your identity is clean, no record, good credit, employable. She was going to vanish into your life like you never existed. I asked the question I'd been dreading. Where is she now? Morrison leaned back in her chair. That's the problem. We don't know. She got a 3-day head start before we realized what had happened. 3 days to establish herself, get money, disappear. We have alerts out. We're tracking her, but she's very good at being invisible. That was when I understood the full scope of my nightmare. Emma wasn't just gone. She was out there living as me, doing God knows what, leaving a trail of my fingerprints and my face and my name all over whatever illegal activities she decided to pursue. And I was sitting in a federal prison, charged with crimes committed by my own sister, unable to prove that I wasn't the person everyone thought I was. My bail hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. The federal prosecutor argued that I was a flight risk, that I had family connections to the fugitive, that my identity had already been compromised, so who knew what I might do. My lawyer argued that I was a victim, not a perpetrator, that I had a stable job and no criminal record, that keeping me locked up while my sister remained free was a mockery of justice. The judge looked tired, overworked, like she'd heard this exact story too many times before. Bail is set at $50,000, she finally said. I didn't have $50,000. I had $12,000 in savings, which was supposed to last me until I found a new apartment after my lease ended. It was supposed to be my safety net. Instead, it became a down payment on my freedom. My boss, Janet, came to the hearing. She sat in the front row of the gallery, and when I looked at her, I could see the conflict playing out across her face. She believed me, I could see that. But belief doesn't change the fact that I was now radioactive. I was the woman whose sister had stolen her identity and escaped from federal prison. I was the woman connected to a fugitive. I was the woman who'd been arrested, no matter how many times my lawyer said I was a victim. I'm sorry, she told me after I was released on bail. We were standing outside the courthouse and the sun was so bright I had to squint. But we can't have you working there right now. It's a liability. The other employees are scared. The clients are asking questions. I need to put you on unpaid leave until this is resolved. How long will that take? I asked. She couldn't answer because she didn't know. And I realized that no one knew. No one knew how long I'd be suspended between identities. Not quite a criminal, but not quite innocent either. Not quite my own person, but not quite someone else's either. I spent the next week in my apartment, barely leaving, scrolling through news articles about the manhunt for Emma. The FBI had put her on a wanted poster. My face was printed on bulletin boards across the country. Every time I saw it, I felt something fracture inside me a little bit more. And then I got a message. It came through an encrypted app from a number I didn't recognize. The text said, "I'm sorry. I never wanted you to get caught in this. I'm going to fix it, I promise." I knew immediately it was Emma, and I realized that my sister wasn't just a criminal. She was a coward who dragged me down with her, and then thought an apology through an encrypted message could make it right. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I turned my phone over to my lawyer. He turned it over to the FBI. Within 6 hours, they'd traced the message to an IP address in Atlantic City. Emma had been there. She might still be there. And suddenly, everyone wanted my help. "We need you to respond," Morrison told me in a small interview room at the FBI field office. "We need you to keep the line of communication open. She trusts you. Or at least she trusts that you won't immediately turn her in." "But I will," I said. "Turn her in, that's the whole point, isn't it?" Morrison nodded. "That's the point. But she doesn't know that yet. If you respond like you're considering her apology, like maybe there's a chance you might help her, she'll keep communicating, and eventually she'll slip up. She'll give us a location, a pattern, something we can use to find her." I was being asked to help the FBI catch my sister. I was being asked to be the bait in a trap set for my own flesh and blood. I said yes. For the next 2 weeks, I texted with someone wearing my face, living in my stolen life. The conversations were strange. They felt almost normal, like texting with Emma had felt before she'd gone to prison. She asked about our mother. I told her Mom was still struggling with addiction. She asked if I was angry. I said yes, but I didn't know at what. Her, myself, the world. She said she understood. She sent me pictures. A photo of her at an outdoor market looking happy. A photo of her at the beach, hair blowing in the wind. A photo of her sitting in a diner, smiling. In every photo, she was wearing my face like a mask she'd never taken off. And I realized, with a clarity that made my stomach turn, that she wasn't just running from prison. She was running into me. She'd decided that if she couldn't escape her own life, she'd escape into mine. Morrison told me that the FBI was tracking the metadata from the photos. They were narrowing down locations. Atlantic City was turning into the Jersey Shore. The Jersey Shore was narrowing to specific neighborhoods. Soon, they'd have an address. But I had a terrible feeling that Emma knew something I didn't, that she was leading them somewhere on purpose, that this was all still part of her plan. I asked my lawyer about it. He looked uncomfortable. "Sometimes criminals want to be caught," he said, "especially if the alternative is spending the rest of their lives running. Maybe she's tired." But Emma wasn't tired. She was strategizing. And I didn't understand the game until Morrison called me at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. her voice tight with something that might have been excitement or might have been rage. "We found her," she said. My heart stopped. "Where?" "New York. She checked into a hotel in Manhattan under your name. She used a credit card in your name. She left a trail that was almost too easy to follow." "Almost," I repeated, something clicking into place. "Morrison, that's not her. That's a trap." "We are aware," she said. But I could hear the doubt in her voice. They'd been playing cat and mouse for so long that they'd forgotten to ask themselves if they were chasing the right animal. I didn't wait for the FBI to raid the hotel. I got in my car and I drove to Manhattan myself, which was either the bravest or stupidest thing I'd ever done. I checked into the hotel, walked up to the room Morrison had texted me, and I knocked on the door. Emma answered. She was thinner than I remembered. She was wearing jeans and a gray hoodie, and she looked like the ghost of someone I used to know. She looked like me, except she looked hollowed out, like something essential had been scooped out of her and replaced with something harder. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I replied. We stood there staring at each other across the threshold of that hotel room, and I realized that this was the first time I was seeing her as herself, not as a memory, or a photograph, or an inmate number. She was real, and she was broken, and she was my sister. "Why did you do this?" I asked. Not why did she escape prison, why did she do it to me? Emma sat down on the edge of the bed. "Because you were the only person I could use who wouldn't hunt me down immediately," she said quietly. "Everyone else I'd ever been close to would have turned me in the moment they figured it out. But you would have hesitated, you would have remembered that you love me, and that hesitation would have bought me time." "I did hesitate," I said, "and it cost me everything. My job, my reputation, my ability to trust that I know who I am." "I know," she said, and she sounded so tired that for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. "The FBI is coming," I told her. "They're probably already downstairs. They're going to arrest you." "I know that too," Emma said. "That's why I'm glad you came first. I wanted to see you before I went back inside. I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry, and that I was never going to let you take the fall for this. I was going to turn myself in. I'd already contacted a lawyer. I was going to explain everything." I wanted to believe her. My sister was sitting in front of me, telling me that she'd planned to sacrifice herself, that she'd never intended for me to suffer, and I wanted to believe it so badly that it physically hurt. But I was done believing Emma. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "It's not that you stole my identity. It's that you stole the choice to forgive you. You forced me into a situation where I had to betray you to save myself. You made it so I couldn't choose compassion. I had to choose survival." Emma looked at me and her eyes filled with tears. "I know," she whispered. "I know, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." The FBI found us together in that room. They arrested Emma without violence, without drama. She went quietly, like someone who'd been waiting to be caught for her entire life. As they let her out, she looked back at me once, and in that look was everything. All the years of chaos and survival and sisterhood and betrayal, all compressed into a single moment of recognition. I testified against her. I provided evidence of the identity theft. I did everything necessary to ensure that she would spend the rest of her sentence with additional charges, additional time. The prosecutor offered me a chance to give a victim impact statement, and I stood in front of a judge, and I told her that my sister had stolen more than my identity. She'd stolen my sense of safety. She'd made me question who I could trust. She'd made me someone I never wanted to be. But here's the thing about reclaiming your identity after someone has stolen it. It's not about getting it back. It's about rebuilding it from scratch. It's about understanding that the person I'd been before Emma took my name was already fractured. We were both running from the same trauma, the same broken childhood. She'd run toward crime, and I'd run toward invisibility. And when she stole my identity, she was just trying to steal the one thing that had worked better than hers. It took me a year to get my background cleared, a year of paperwork and hearings and proving, over and over again, that I was me. My boss eventually rehired me, though things were never quite the same. The workplace gossip had already done its damage. But I found something in that year. I found that I was stronger than I'd known, that I could survive being unmade and remade, that I could love my sister and still demand justice from her, that I could be angry at the system that had failed us both without letting that anger consume me. Emma is back in prison now, serving out her original sentence plus 15 additional years. She sends me letters. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. I'm still deciding what kind of relationship I want to have with her, if any. But I'm deciding that on my own terms, with my own name, using my own identity. And no one can steal that from me ever again. Because I finally understand that my identity isn't something external. It's not in my name or my documents or my face. It's in the choices I make, the person I choose to become, the boundaries I'm willing to maintain even when the person violating them is someone I love. Emma tried to take my life. But she couldn't take that. No one can.